Welcome back, everyone. Susan DeLeo again, Digital Inclusion Specialist at Oak Hill Collaborative. You're watching week 3 of Raspberry Pi After School Online, brought to you by Oak Hill Collaborative and Success After 6. This week is really exciting as we'll be going over all the different parts or components of your CanaKit. In this week's lab assignment, presenter James Dietrich will be helping you assemble your CanaKit that you got in the mail with this video.
Hi, I'm James Dietrich, a professor of computer science at YSU and the curriculum director of the Raspberry Pi program here at Oak Hill Collaborative. You're watching week 3 of the Raspberry Pi After School program online. In the previous segment, we briefly discussed the components of a computer. Let's quickly review these components and talk about how they communicate. They are the motherboard, Central Processing Unit, or CPU, power supply, and hard disk drive, or HDD for short. Now let's talk about some of the components that we didn't talk about in depth, or that may be new to you now that you've received your Raspberry Pi. Inventory of supplies. We have the monitor package, which comes with a lot of styrofoam. Gently slide it out. There's the screen component, the parts of the base, the power adapter, and the HDMI cable. Also, there's a plastic bag containing a small screwdriver and the instruction manual. The two parts of the base, which snap together. The back of the screen has a small metal bracket, which attaches right here with the screws that are inside the packet. So just what are all these things? Week 2 was all about the parts of the computer, but just because we have a computer doesn't mean we can talk to it. We can try, but it doesn't understand us. Computer. So just what is needed to talk to the computer and become an effective computer user? The display allows us to see things with our eyes. The keyboard allows us to type commands and also type words, like typing a paper. The mouse has a laser on the back that tracks the movement of our hand, and the buttons on the front correspond to functions on the screen. The wheel allows us to move up and down the screen by scrolling. And the HDMI cable takes the video from the display adapter right here to the monitor. So what are some of the other ways that we can interact with the computer? Okay, so first we'll take the hardware out of the bag. One bag is labeled mounting screws. This is for mounting on the wall, which we won't need. You can put that back. The other bag is labeled neck screw. That's the one. Next, we're going to gently take the screen out. And you might need help for this part. But what you want to do is line up the two holes on the bracket with the mount in the back of the screen. And if you drop the screw gently in, you can get it in just far enough to get it started. It just needs a few rotations. You don't need to over tighten. When that's snug, you can place it up firmly, and if it's on a level surface, it won't wobble like this. Next, we have the HDMI cable and the AC adapter, which we'll need later on. Go ahead and take those out of the plastic bag, and you'll notice that there is a twist tie on the cable. We can set that aside in the hardware packet. On the back, you can see that the AC adapter goes to the purple spot labeled DC in. Go ahead and plug that in. And also where it says HDMI 1 in yellow, you can take the cover off of one side of this, and you can notice that it's a trapezoid shape. It only goes in one way. You don't have to push too hard. And the other end will hook into your Raspberry Pi. The plastic protective coating can just be peeled off. We won't need that anymore. And voila, the monitor is completely assembled. Inside the booklet is the warranty card. Make sure your parent or guardian fills out the form online so that your monitor is registered. Next we have this long keyboard box, and that opens right up, and you can see that there is not only a keyboard, but a mouse inside. You can take that out of the plastic, and you can also peel back this protective plastic covering. All these bags are recyclable, so if you have recycling in your neighborhood, be sure to put those out. The next piece is the CanaKit box, which contains the Raspberry Pi. Inside, you'll find that there's another HDMI cable, which can come in handy if you want to connect your Raspberry Pi to a TV. There are 3 small boxes inside. One is the power adapter, and inside that you'll find that the end looks like a micro USB, like a phone charger. The white and red box is the case. If we open that up, we find that it's already assembled but empty. Don't overlook this small plastic bag. This contains the heat sinks that will help cool the CPU and video chip that are on the Raspberry Pi. The last box, which is red with the Raspberry Fruit logo, is the actual Raspberry Pi. Keep in mind that the static electricity from your body can discharge on this component and wreck your Raspberry Pi. So make sure you touch something metal before you touch it. I like to hold it by the ends where the ports go. And we can set that right out in front of us. Inside you'll also find the Quick Start Guide pamphlet. The last piece is the color Quick Start Guide. Go ahead and read this to get a better understanding of everything that's involved with the Raspberry Pi.
You can touch the screen and it'll...
We'll start with the case by taking the cover off. It just lifts straight off, and setting that down. Next is a tricky part. We'll have to put our fingers in where the ports go and sort of pry it open. It doesn't take much effort, and it just pops right off. The bottom is the part with the rubber feet. We'll set that down, and we'll put this middle part off to the side. On the base, you can see in the corner there are small arrows on one side. Those small arrows are where the white circles on the PCB get put underneath. It comes down at an angle and then drops right into place. You can set that down and grab the middle piece. You can tell which side the ports go on because they're cut out. And then along the side, you can see that the video and audio port, as well as the charger port, all have cutouts on the edge. And just snap that down into place. You might have to push a little bit against the tabletop. Now we can see that there are exposed squares. Those exposed squares are where we're going to put the heatsink. On the back of each heatsink is an adhesive backing. You can just peel it back and the plastic, the blue plastic, will come off, leaving a sticky pad underneath. The larger square corresponds with the large square that's about the same size right below the video HDMI port, and you'll just stick that on as squarely and straight as you can. There. The small heatsink goes right behind the middle USB port. There is a small chip there that is the video processor. Remove the backing as before and stick that on. It doesn't matter which orientation you have the vanes of the heatsink going. Just stick them in place firmly. Next, we'll take the middle piece with the ports cut out on one side, line those up, and you'll notice that in the side where the ports stick out, it's cut out on the side. That's how you know it's not backwards. Push that straight down against a hard surface, and it should click into place, like so. Next, the cover. You can tell that there is only one way that this will go by noting that there are tiny little ridges on either side where these parts hook on. For a double check, if you put the ports on the top, the fruit is right side up. You'll also notice that there's a small gap that no matter how hard you press, it doesn't go away. That's normal, and that's for air to flow in and out of the case. We won't plug it in just quite yet. First, we'll hook up all of the other components, and then last, we will plug the AC power into the Raspberry Pi. Next, we're going to insert the SD card into our Raspberry Pi computer. Flip the case upside down so that the rubber feet are facing up, and set it down flat on the tabletop. Next, we want to hold the SD card with the writing side up, and you'll notice there's a small ridge. Hold it by that side. You'll see a small slot on the right-hand side. Make it face your hand. Drop the SD card flat and slowly push with your fingernail. It doesn't go farther than the edge of the case, so that's normal. We'll know if this works if the computer boots up. Sometimes computers don't boot up. That's what's known as dead on arrival. If you suspect that your Raspberry Pi is dead on arrival, have your parent or guardian contact us and we'll see what we can do to fix it. Next, we're going to plug the peripherals into our Raspberry Pi computer so that we can boot it up. Next, we have the other side of the HDMI cable. We'll go ahead and plug our monitor in. The power button is on the back side, right here. Last, we'll plug in the Raspberry Pi power connector that ends with a micro USB. There's only one right way to put the connector in. If you look carefully, the larger end is on the top. When you plug in your Raspberry Pi, you'll see a rainbow-colored square, and then you'll see the logo flash briefly while it loads. On the screen, you'll see a box that says Noobs v2.7. The Raspbian operating system is the recommended pre-installed operating system. We'll check the box next to it. But don't hit install yet. If you have Wi-Fi available, get some help in filling in the properties of the Wi-Fi network that you want to join. At the bottom, you'll see that it says Language English UK. That's because the Raspberry Pi Foundation is based in the United Kingdom. We're going to want English US because the $sign on our keyboard won't be the $sign if we keep the original language. If you're on Wi-Fi, you can go ahead and install the Raspberry Pi full operating system. So check that box and hit install. A dialog box that says confirm shows up, and it says warning. This will install the selected operating systems. All existing data on the drive will be overwritten, including any OSs that are already installed. This is normal. Hit yes. The welcome screen will have this progress bar at the bottom, letting you know how far along it is. Make sure that you don't unplug the Raspberry Pi accidentally during this time. If you've made it this far, then you have your very own Raspberry Pi computer kit built and ready to take on the rest of the week. Congratulations and welcome to the world of computing. You and this kit will go far in figuring out how to solve problems, write computer games, and play network computer games like Minecraft with your friends. We'll talk about that next week. Until then, this is Dietrich, Oak Hill Collaborative, signing off.